Hi there and welcome back to Valley por Vida. Now it's officially the time where we reveal your fan test answers. So if you recall, before the break we showed you these movies and asked you to determine which one Hollywood actor RJ Mitte was not involved in. And the answer is the very first one, Daddy's Home. Now we absolutely loved RJ in Carol of the Bells, his most recent film Triumph, which actually had a premiere in Brownsville. Of course, Breaking Bad and Standing Up for Sunny, but he actually is not known to have done any work on the film Daddy's Home. So if you haven't had a chance to check him out on any of those films, then you definitely got to. They're so great, and he's so great. Now, as promised, we've got professional stand-up comedian Steve Trevino on our show to invite you to his comedy tour. Now, he is from Corpus Christi, and this is really exciting news because he always comes to the Valley. And he recently performed here in the Valley with his friend, one of our favorite rappers, Pitbull. And that night was a huge success. Now, he's going to be back at it. Now, he's going to be traveling and hitting other cities all across the country, and we're catching up with him to not only see where he'll be going next, but to check out what he's been up to. So here's today's Comedy Corner segment.
Good morning. ¿Cómo amanecieron? Bien, todos bien. It's good to be here. How are you? Well, we do have a lot going on, and it is so nice to in the Valley specifically. I missed you guys so much because during COVID things really got locked down there, and for me I had a tradition of the day before Thanksgiving always finding myself in the Valley. So for the past couple of years I missed you guys, and it seems like things are getting back to normal, and I ask everybody to stay safe and do all the right things, but we are getting back to normal, and we filmed a special during quarantine called My Life in Quarantine, and Amazon Prime was nice enough to pick that one up, and we just filmed another one called I Speak Wife, and I was just in the Valley performing with Pitbull, but I mean there's a lot of exciting things going on. Our podcast weekly with me and my wife, which is a soap opera. Well, it's very important to me, when I am a working class man. I come from a working class family in the Corpus Christi area, and I know how hard men and women work. So when you choose to come to my show, my goal is to, number one, give you the best show possible, and to let you forget about all the day-to-day BS, and I don't do politics. I don't do religion. I try to make you laugh as hard as you can, talking about my real life, talking about my wife, the struggles of being a below average husband to an above average woman, and trying to be the best father I can be, and try to make it all relatable, and so that you come out and you have a great time. Now, I always take a few minutes at the end of my show, and it's never political, to thank the men and women who serve our communities, from our first responders to our teachers, our nurses, and then of course I always give it up to the men and women who serve our country, the U.S. military. So, when you come to my show, the goal is you had a great night out and you honored the people that serve our communities, and a lot of times those are the people in the audience, and we forget to thank, especially right now, our healthcare professionals. We all sit here and go, man, I had a rough year and a half. Well, imagine our nurses, our doctors, right? All the people that work at the hospital, the year and a half that they've had, so big thank you to all the healthcare workers out there. Continue to help people out, continue to stay mentally strong, and we appreciate you guys. So, for me, it's a love fest. You come to my show, we love each other, we have a great time, we laugh, and at the end of the day, I hope that you see that I value the dollar you spent to be at my show.
Steve is one of the best stand-up comedians, writers, producers, and well, he wears a lot of other hats, and we're so excited about his specials for Showtime, Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and more. As you guys can tell, he's a busy guy, and you can keep up with him by visiting his website. Of course, you can also check out his website and follow him on social media. You're going to be able to dive into his world and laugh for days. But we were wondering, how much do you know about his world, the world of comedy? Let's go ahead and find out in today's Fun Facts segment. So, as with any field, there are some common terms that comedians use, and that vocab has just become comedic lingo throughout the years. But do you know what some of these words are or what they refer to? Take ad lib, for example. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's an easy one. Everyone knows that ad-libbing is kind of just to make up, a joke in a scripted show of some sort and kind of just roll with the punches. Easy peasy. But how about the term badgers and jam? Yeah, maybe that's one that's not too common, right? Well, apparently Badgers and Jam refers to a comic who gets people to laugh at his jokes from surprising and random objects being thrown into the mix, kind of like props or even animals that are suddenly being included in the set. Wow. And how about a beat? Now, if you've worked in newspaper or maybe print media in that industry, then you may be familiar with some sort of fashion of, of what a beat is. But in comedy, a beat is a pause. It's when a comedian takes a break or a dramatic pause in a way that's just relevant to his joke. And we probably have all heard that parts of a comedian's show are called bits. Comedy bits. I mean, it's like a routine or a section of a routine, but do you know what blue material is? Apparently it has nothing to do with the color blue, but rather it's a joke that maybe is a tad bit graphic or better suited for mature audiences. Maybe the language isn't too family friendly. Now, an apper is a term that refers to the final series of a comedian's joke. So it's still regarding some same subject matter as the previous jokes, but this one is the one that's meant to end the show. It's the showstopper. It's the one that the comedian saves for the end that's bound to bring about the biggest laughs. And right before that comes the connector. And this is basically at the center of the joke and is usually a little subtle, a little vague. And this is one that can be perceived in at least two different ways. So it definitely leaves you thinking. It's kind of like a decoy. One way to think about it is, one version is realistic and maybe the other just leaves you guessing a little bit. Okay, and have you ever heard of the term critic spot in comedy? It's basically a location that's designated for evaluating a show. So this is really important spot for comedians, and it's definitely different than a spot where they do rehearsals or meetings or something like that. It's a space specifically for critiquing the show, and that's how they can view it from an audience member's perspective and just think about ways to improve it. And we've all heard the term corporates in the business world, right? But in comedy, corporates refers to very well-paid private events that comedians get invited to perform at. It's different than regular shows that they may perform at a comedy club, maybe a bar, or another venue, because it's specifically referring to a high-paying gig with high-paying clients. And we've got two more for you, okay? Have you ever heard of the term decoy assumption for comedians? I never did. What is this? It's the misdirecting assumption of a joke. So a joke that creates one story or maybe a plot line, but then it's completely shattered later on and the audience realizes that it was a total misinterpretation. This is also known as a total shift. And lastly, all right, you guys, ready? A double up is basically doing two gigs in one night, which happens quite often, especially if there are two corporates, right? So the next time that you attend a comedy event like Steve's, then you can definitely have a little bit more insight into the terminology that's used to make the show happen. All right, you guys, that's all of our time for now. We can't wait to see you next time on Valley por Vida. We'll see you then.